Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm a social worker and a mental health counselor, and I will be your counselor today.
Thank you for having me. My name is Josh.
Great, Josh. I just wanted to get to know you a little bit more. Do you want to share something about where you go to school?
So I go to Earl Haig Secondary School.
And is that a high school?
Yes, I'm currently in grade 11.
Great. So, Josh, what brings you here today?
So currently I've just been struggling academically, and
Mhm.
I think it's because I have anxiety and like some sort of depression.
Right. And I'm so sorry to hear that. And I want to assure you that you have come to the right place to seek help. And I also just wanted to thank you for like sharing that with me because a lot of kids just don't want to, like a lot of the students just don't want to um, share too much. But I want to assure you that you have come to the right place to seek help. And this, I will try my best to make this a very safe environment for you. And I'm a mental health counselor, and my practice is focused on providing counseling therapy for CBT, um, especially for childhood anxiety, OCD, and PTSD. And I work mostly with youth at the Toronto District School Board. And I've worked in the TDSB system for like a few years.
Well, I'm glad I came to the right place to seek for some help.
Thank you for sharing that. So Josh, tell me what's going on at school and what's making you struggle.
So mostly I just have a lot of anxiety
Mm-hmm,
due to me not finishing my schoolwork on time,
mm-hmm,
and that causes more anxiety. And my
mm-hmm.
grades are just really low, and it's causing me to be really sad because I know I am smarter than that.
Right.
And my parents are very hardworking. They have these high expectations for me. They want me to go to get into a good university, have a good
Mhm.
job down the line, but it's making me really anxious and just depressed of what my future holds for me if I can't do school at a good level. And I
Right.
just think I'm letting them down, showing them that I have poor grades.
Yeah, and that's a lot to go through. And thank you for sharing that again. Um, have you shared with your parents that you are not getting the grades that you want to get and the fear you have about what the future will look like for you?
Uh, I can't really share like this information with them because I don't want to have them be disappointed or let them down.
And I think that's totally reasonable, like totally reasonable. And I am so sorry to hear that again. And I know it's causing you a lot of heavy feelings just to keep it inside you and keep it away from your parents that you're struggling. Have you shared this with anybody else other than me?
No, I haven't really talked about this at all with anybody. It's just I just kept it to myself.
Right. And that's understandable because like from my experiences, like when I work with other youth at school system, like a lot of the students just don't want to talk about their um problems with anybody else. They think that they're burdening their friends or parents, and I am so happy that you shared this with me. Now, what about your friends at school? Do they know about these struggles like you're having with your grades? Do they know anything at all?
No, I try and keep it kind of private. Whenever my friends come up to me saying, "What mark did I get on the test?" I already just tell them I did good. So I'm
Mhm.
just really lying to them. Yeah, I haven't really told my friends about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's totally understandable. And that's what I would do if I were in your position. Because you know what, it's really hard, and I just think that getting this bad grades and also like keeping it to yourself is like affecting the relationships that you have with your parents and also your friends at school.
Yeah, I
Now,
could.
would you agree with me that this is like is this am I correct that is this affecting your relationships with your parents and friends at school?
Yeah, I could see that it's affecting my relationships with them just because I'm becoming more distant with them because I don't want them to know I'm doing bad at school, both
Hmm.
my friends and family. When I'm at home, I say hi, hello to my parents, but whenever they ask about school, I just go to my room after and try to avoid talking to them.
Hmm.
But when I'm at school, sometimes I don't even try and talk to my friends. I just want to keep to myself so they don't
Hmm.
really see that I'm getting bad grades.
Right.
And then it's just terrible to see that like all my friends are doing so well and I'm the only one that isn't doing well in school. So I just try to keep to myself as much as possible.
And what about the teachers? Are you speaking to them at all about your being upset with your grades?
Obviously, my teachers know because they're giving me the grades
Mm-hmm.
and they've asked me on several occasions if I need the extra help. They want to talk to my parents and they've offered just to speak more about this with me, but I don't feel comfortable speaking about that.
And that is also like, I feel like I can almost relate to this because I mean, that's how a lot of people would feel. And that is fine that you are not sharing this with your teachers or your friends, because this is why you've come to the counselor for help. And I want to hear you out because it is a lot that you're holding just to yourself, and it's not healthy to keep so much to yourself. But aside from that, what do you think is getting in the way of not doing well at school?
So when I started grade 11,
Mm-hmm.
school just got insanely hard. And
Mm-hmm.
the amount of pressure from my parents they've been putting on me to go to a
Mm-hmm.
good university
Right.
has just been a lot. And I've just wanted to just kind of relax like in grade 10 and 9. That was a breeze to me, but grade 11 came by and it was just harder. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this pressure is really getting me worked up and I have a lot of anxiety of what my future holds.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think with my current grades right now, I'll be able to go to university after grade 12. Like, I also have a part time job, and it's just taking me away from focusing on school.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will agree with you that grade 9 and 10 were really easy, and grade 11 was just like really hard and it hit them like it was like a slap on the face, and because it was just that hard. And I want you to know that you're not alone in thinking that it's hard. And to be honest, you sound very mature and responsible to me. Do you think that your part-time job is also a reason why you cannot spend a lot of time on your homework and hang out with your friends as much?
100%. I really want to show good character at my work,
Mhm.
and I it's really taking away from the relationships of my parents, the school relationship I have, and also just with my friends. I don't really get to see them.
Yeah. And do you think that maybe schoolwork and also this additional responsibility of working part-time are making you feel overwhelmed? I'm asking you this because, as you have said, that school already got hard, And grade 11 is additional homework and additional workload. And then you also got this additional responsibility of working part-time. Is this what is making you feel overwhelmed?
Uh, yes, there's just a lot on my plate right now, and it's hard to juggle all
Mhm.
the tasks I have.
Absolutely. And that's okay to feel that you've got a lot on your plate and you're just starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed because you are doing a lot. And Josh, would it be okay if I ask how many hours you're working part time?
Uh, Roughly between 20 to 25 hours a week.
Wow. That is a lot of work for a full time grade 11 student.
Yeah, but my family and I aren't really the best financially.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I try and pick up as much hours as I can to just help pitch in for my parents and pay the expenses that we are struggling to pay.
mm-hmm. You honestly sound very responsible and mature to me because you're helping out your parents and you're taking on this job. May I ask what kind of expenses you're using to help your family?
Currently, right now, I'm just trying to use the money on myself. I'm not really trying to, I'm trying to ease the financial burden on my
Mm-hmm,
parents. So
mm-hmm,
whenever I'm at school, I use my own money to buy my lunch.
mm-hmm.
I pay for my own TTC tickets to get to
Right.
school. And
Mm-hmm,
like ever since that my dad has had to quit his job after he had a heart attack a few months ago, my
right.
mom is the only one that really works. So I don't want to ask them for some money just so I could eat at school.
And I'm so sorry to hear about your dad's heart attack and all this financial struggle and and all this almost like a burden that's on your shoulder right now. And you're doing so well and you are really proving to be a very responsible young adult to me. And that's a lot going on at home. Your mom and you must be feeling very stressed.
Yeah, I've been very stressed recently. Like my mom, I could see her working so hard. She works a full-time job, plus tries and keeps the house clean.
Mhm.
She does all the chores at home. And
Right.
I don't think it's my place because I feel so bad having to ask her for a couple dollars just to not be hungry at school.
Right. And what kind of expenses do you have?
So I told you about my school lunches,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it'd be dinners when I'd be working after school.
Right.
And my metro I pay for the TTC Metro Pass, and that's
Mm-hmm.
about like $130. And
Right.
then another $200 for lunches and just extra clothes and stuff for myself. So I
Right.
spend about $600 and just $150 to get supplies ready to start the year off for school. And
Right. Right.
yeah,
And I think that's reasonable because I think like your uniforms are very expensive. So $600 sounds like a lot, but for the kids who go to a school with uniform, that's nothing because uniforms are quite expensive. And I think you've got a lot on your plate because your expenses are so much and you are a remarkable young man to be so responsible at this age and carry out your expenses.
thank you. I try my best to handle my money well.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job and you should be very proud of yourself.
It's just very difficult where I'm doing good within my job, but at school I'm just doing terrible and my grades are so poor that it's giving me like feelings of hopelessness in a sense.
Right.
Like I'm an only child to my parents, and if I don't do well, I feel like I'm gonna disappoint them and just they're gonna be heartbroken. It's like they're gonna start blaming themselves, like what they do wrong if I don't get into university.
And I think like you sound very um you're concerned about your parents, and you're just it sounds like you really care about them. And I just want to tell you that you shouldn't feel so low, because all this additional responsibilities of working so many hours, um and also, like, having this extra challenge of entering grade 11, and also the stress you feel about going to university is causing you to do poorly. I think a lot of the youth, when they start out grade 11, sometimes they might struggle. So you're not the only one. Now, do your friends work part-time hours?
No, none of them, honestly, none of them work, and they don't
Mhm,
know what I'm really going through. Like their parents are all fine. They pay
mhm.
for everything they need, and that just has my friends not needing to work. And it's really just putting a wall between us. It's like
Mhm.
I'm distancing myself from them just because they're not going through the same life experience as I am.
And I think, like, honestly, like, yes, I think it's also because, like, a lot of the kids in grade 11, like, they start to take school really seriously, because university applications are just like 2 years away. And I also think that, um, I'm really sorry that you're going through this, because you shouldn't be at work. You should be taking school seriously. Um, and it's just not, it's not ideal to go through this. Um, and like you said, like, you can't really relate to your friends because of this.
Yeah, I really can't because ever since my dad had a heart attack a few months ago,
Mhm.
it just turned our lives upside down. And like, I don't want to talk about the struggles financially my parents are facing
Mhm.
uh, with the other kids at school because I don't think they'd understand what I'm
Right.
really going through.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I don't think a lot of the kids have to take on this a part-time job after school. And I also think they wouldn't, a lot of them are very privileged, and they wouldn't know what it's like and what the struggles that you have. And I think it's okay to not share too much about your personal life with other students at school. Like, as you said, they will not understand this, and I want to make sure that you are doing okay. So how much time are you spending doing your homework actually?
So after I get off school, I go
Mhm.
work for 5 hours. And then after work, I try and set an hour of my time at home just to do homework. And I find myself stressing. I can't do my homework, that I have so much anxiety in me. I can't get these things done.
So it feels like you're really overwhelmed by work and school, and your anxiety is getting in the way of functioning, and also to get your homework done. Like, by functioning, I mean functioning academically, and like getting your homework done.
Yeah, just I feel such a heart, like a weight on my shoulders. I don't want to disappoint my parents, so I just try and do my best, but all that built up stress and anxiety is just preventing me from doing things.
Yeah. And I think you're so right. And it sounds like a lot of stress on your shoulder, a lot of stress and burden. And I wonder what it would be like if we could alleviate that burden from your shoulder. And if I could connect you to some of the resources just in the community. And if I could see how we can like cover those expenses, would you feel comfortable about reducing the hours at work? Like if your expenses were not so much, if you didn't have to pay for for the TTC Metro Pass, or like I don't know, the food or the clothes, or like if you didn't have to pay, and if I found you some resources, would you feel comfortable to reduce the hours to a minimum of like maybe let's just say 6 to 8 hours a week?
Yeah, if you could alleviate some of the expenses I've been doing monthly or weekly, like it just reduced so much weight just to have myself have free time to focus on something else like school.
Mhm. And I wouldn't have like I wanted to know that I can help you find some resources to cover your expenses so you don't have to work and you can spend more time doing your homework.
That sounds really good, but also there's just something inside me that I think I still won't be able to get things done. Because when I do have free time, like there's some weekends where I don't work, I just sit at my table and like I stare at my books and I feel the time going by, but I still haven't really done anything about studying or reading the assigned papers. And I just spend all the time worrying about my tests just to fail it in the end.
And again, all that, I think it's totally normal. But what are the things that you're worrying about most of the time?
Uh, I'm not too sure. Just because I just sit there and I don't I do the test and I just fail. It
Mhm.
feels like no matter how much I study or how much I don't study, I still fail.
So to me, it looks like that your past performances of like are like it's affecting your confidence. It's like you've kind of like internalized that thought that no matter what I do, I'll just fail because I failed last time. Like and that's that's normal and that's understandable. It's also like a little bit concerning. So what other things do you feel?
Uh, I just feel so bad of what happened with my dad as he got sick. I feel like if my mom also got sick with how hard she's working,
Mhm.
I just wouldn't know what would happen to my family.
Yeah, and I think it's just like your dad's heart attack has been so challenging and it's been so hard on you. And I'm so sorry that you're feeling this way. That you're fearing that what if my mom also got sick? What would happen to me? Or who would take care of my dad? Or who would take care of like all of us financially? And are there any other thoughts that are keeping you worried at the time?
Yeah, I just feel like if I fail a test, I will continue to fail each and every test. And in turn, that basically makes my parents heartbroken and just disappointed with me that I can't get into a good university.
Yeah, and I agree. And I just think that, aside from that feeling that you have that your parents will be disappointed, I think that right now your parents should be so, I think, and I'm pretty sure they're very proud of you. Um, and I think that honestly, in your head, you're thinking about all the worst possible outcomes in your head, and it's contributing to all the anxiety that you feel. And I can help you with this anxiety. I want to share a few techniques with you. Is that okay if I share a few techniques?
I'd be open to reducing my anxiety.
Okay. And how are you feeling? Do you think we need to take a break or do you think we are okay?
I think I'm okay to keep going right
Okay. Sure. And I think if you're okay, then I will continue on. And um, so I do have a few techniques with me. And do you feel that you're ready to practice some of the techniques with me?
Yes.
Okay. So the first technique we will try is called the catastrophizing technique. So catastrophizing in CBT is known as when somebody's imagination is running wild. It's kind of like what you're feeling when you're sitting at your desk and trying to study. Like when somebody's imagination is running so wild that this person is thinking of all the worst possible outcomes. And it happens when we have gone through a challenging situation. So in your case, it was your dad's heart attack. And you felt that your world was like maybe turned upside down. And after you go through like a traumatic incident, although you didn't go through it, but because your dad has gone through such a challenge and your family has gone through a challenge like that. So after like a traumatic incident, sometimes we assume the worst possible outcomes, like the worst will happen. And in your case, it seems that you're overwhelmed during and after that incident of your dad's heart attack. Is this, do you think, am I right? Or is this like, is there anything that you feel is not kind of speaking to you?
Uh, Everything you're saying seems correct, honestly. Like, I feel so helpless at the time seeing my dad just in that condition because I look up to him so much and I feel so helpless that my mom is also overworking herself to pay the medical bills, the paying all the bills in the house and just doing all the chores. And I try to help my mom as much as I can, but she keeps telling me to just focus on school, focus on
Mhm.
what I need to do to get into university.
Right.
And before my dad got a heart attack, I didn't have a job. I didn't need one. But now I have these extra expenses I need to pay. So I have the part-time job. I don't want to bring financial burden to my parents.
Yeah, and I know I've said this before, but I honestly think you're just so responsible. It's just the way you sound, and also just like how, like the outlook you have, and on this situation where your dad had a heart attack. Um, but I also feel that you're catastrophizing by thinking of all the worst possible outcomes. So when you think that you will fail for your upcoming tests because you failed your last one, it's an example of catastrophizing. Is that like, do you feel that too?
Yeah, I'm starting to understand it more and more from your explanation. And thank you for that. But yes, every time I fail a test, I feel like I'm gonna fail the next one.
Right. And catastrophizing techniques in CBT can help us with thinking more positively and also identify any of our unhelpful thinking patterns. And we will practice some role play to work on that catastrophizing. Like we'll look at that and we'll look at how to decatastrophize, and we'll do some role play techniques. So tell me about a thought you have after you saw your low grade on the last test. When you saw like a D or a C, like when you see these grades, like what is a thought that immediately comes to your mind?
Uh Basically that I was just a failure and I wasn't good enough for my parents, that I wasn't doing well in school, and I was just so embarrassed that I don't really want to talk about it with anyone.
Yeah, and it's not a good thought at all, right? And I know that um so like when you see like a F or like a D or like a C, like if you see that grade, like a helpful thought would be that I am not going to fail again. I've done very well before this. And although I failed this test, I've done well before, and I'm going to change my situation, my workload, and what went wrong, and I will do better on my task next time.
Yeah, but the thing is, last year my homework was just so much easier. I didn't really have to spend too much time on it. Everything came to me naturally. I was
Mhm.
paying attention to school. And this year it's just been so much more challenging because I've have so much more on my plate with school.
Mhm. And I think that you're 100% right. And I think this year is just like hard for anybody, but I also think that for you, it's extra hard. Um, but I also want to challenge that thought that you have, that that you're saying that, like school is easier. But I also want to point out that last year you did not have to work part-time hours. And I think that this part-time hours are taking away the time you have now to do some of your schoolwork.
Yeah, I could honestly see that I'm spending more time doing something else rather than focusing on school, as I have the part-time job and I didn't have one last year.
That's right. So last year you did great on all your tests. And this year, if you spend more time on schoolwork, although it's a little bit harder, but if you spend more hours on schoolwork, it will do so much better. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I feel like that's right. If I was able to just focus on school and not have anything else on my mind, I feel
Mhm.
like I could get to what I was last year and just be good at school again.
Yeah, and I just want to just like looking at this catastrophizing technique, and I just want to identify one of the unhelpful thought you have, because you should, like, I want to point out that your peers and your friends who were doing great, or um it's because they don't have a part-time job, and they didn't go through an experience you went through at home with your dad, getting a heart attack. Your friends and peers did not go through that traumatic incident, and they don't have to work, and they're not going through what you are going through, and they don't have to work part-time, and their parents are working, all expenses paid. And I think you should give yourself a pat on the back because of that.
Yeah, it's just at school I feel so lonely because I also don't have time to just chill and have time with my friends to just
Yep.
talk about stuff and just have fun.
Yeah, and therefore I want to say that you're doing great, and I want to give you kudos because you stepped up to that challenge after your dad got a heart attack. Like you went and you got yourself a job, and you started paying for your expenses. And that should tell you that you were a remarkable youth, and you should tell yourself that you did a very, very responsible thing.
Yeah, but I just at this point I don't think my problems are just gonna end. Like I feel like life is just gonna get much harder and harder each year, each day. Yeah.
And when you feel that way, that life will just get harder, you're always welcome to visit us again and seek help, because it's just great to have somebody to talk to. And I think so far you're doing really well. You've proven to be very responsible over and over again, and it's great that you're seeking help from like a therapist.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I want to send your referral to the Pathways to Success program. Have you heard of that program, Pathways to Success?
No, I really haven't. What's the program about?
So it's just like a program where it's like it kind of supports students who are in a similar situation as you are. And this program is not available to every school, but I looked it up and it looks like your school will be eligible. Um, And so after I send in a referral, they will be providing you with TTC tickets and school supplies, as well as after school tutoring. Now, would you be open to that help? Like, would it be okay if I send in a referral to that program?
Uh, yeah, I definitely would love the extra help to just reduce my hours at my job so I could really focus on school and get into a good university so I don't disappoint my parents.
Yeah, and I'm glad you feel that way, because I think also not only the the TTC tickets and the school supplies and all that financial cost will go down, but I also think that just being in that environment, going to after school tutoring, that will be great academically, and it will give you like the boost to work harder. And I'm so happy that you agreed to this, and I will send in a referral after our session ends, and then somebody will give you a call next week.
Thank you. That's just going to be such a good help in my life.
Yeah, and I want to talk about two more. It's regarding the clothing, because their expenses are quite a bit for clothing. So your school has a free like a uniform program, and it's for like it's from past students, but it's also like all the donated clothes are gently used. It's in a very good condition. And I wanted to ask if it would be open if I sent in a referral. And this will be completely confidential. None of your friends will know about this. That was one of them. And the other one I have in mind is a community clothing bank to get some home clothes or non-uniform clothes. Because I really want you to not worry about having this expense for clothing.
Yeah, I would be open to that. I just don't want anyone in my friend group to really know about it.
Yeah, I mean the school uniform program, like the free school services, it will be completely confidential. Nobody will know. Um, and in terms of a clothing bank, I can refer you to one which is not in your area, and you don't have to share this with anybody.
That sounds very good. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm so happy that you are agreeing to this, because it will really bring that expenses down. Now, would it be okay? Like, do you think if I referred you to a low cost lunch program at school? With that, the one thing is that your friends might figure it out that you are part of the program, because, well, obviously they're going to figure it out when you're paying the bill if they're around you. That's the one thing I was worried about. Is that something you think like it's you would be okay with?
Uh, I think that would honestly be fine because realistically, the lunches isn't really a big thing. I could try and cover that up, but yeah, that's fine with me.
You know what, honestly, I'm so proud of you that you're making all the right decisions, because I don't think right now is a time to worry about what others would think. And I'm happy that you agreed to this program. Now, would it be okay if I also refer you to a community food bank where you can go during the weekend and collect some food? It's just because, you can't study in an empty stomach. And I also don't want you to go hungry before a test, or you having to worry about your mom, or just because I know your mom might not have the time to go and do grocery shopping with all the extra chores. And this would be also a way to, help out your family a little bit. Is that something you would be open to?
Yeah, that sounds something that I'd be open to.
Right. And I think that you don't need to share this with anybody. Because there's so many community food banks, and I can look up something that's not like, right by your house, like a little bit far. So you don't have to, like, nobody has to know you're going there to get food. And with all that being said, I think we've really worked to like bring your expenses down so much Now, do you think you'd be do you think you'd be open to lower your work hours to keep it like a minimum 6 to 8 hours per week, just because you don't have so many expenses?
Yeah, I've been looking to reduce my hours. I just haven't really found a way to do that to support all my other expenses. But if you are saying you're going to help me cover them, then yes, I'd love to reduce my work hours.
Amazing. And you can always work full time in the summer. There is a program called the Canada Summer Job Grant, where you must be under 30 and you have to be a full time student. You have to look those jobs up at, Charity Village. Sometimes your school might advertise it. But that's also a way to like work full time hours during the summer, and you can save up some money.
That's good. I just have to learn how to be more financially stable and just be safe with my money so I
Yeah.
can use that money in the future when I need it.
Yeah, and I think it's also a great way to build your resume at the same time. Now, how are you feeling right now with after after this conversation?
I feel like if everything does go to plan, that I feel relieved that there is a plan in place for me just to really focus on my academics and not have to worry
Yeah,
financially.
yeah. And so I have some catastrophizing worksheets, which I want to give it to you so you can take it home. And what did you learn from this technique so far just by talking to me?
I just learned that I have all these unhelpful thoughts running through my brain of me saying I'm a failure, I'm not doing well in school, and I just look at why I did poorly on my test, and each time I do poorly on a test, it reflects my marks and my next upcoming test.
And you're right on. Now, what else did you learn?
That I really should focus on my last year's success in school where I was just nailing each and every test. I was getting good grades, and I shouldn't really put too much focus on a poor grade and just learn from it and try and do better on the next test.
Amazing. And is there anything else that you think you learned that you want to share with me?
I think I could look at everything that went wrong and I did poorly on and just change the way I do things to do better in the future.
Amazing. You were sharing like all these really helpful points from our conversation. And I think that in addition to all the things that you've mentioned, I still want to point out that you were doing a lot of self-blaming. Just throughout this conversation, just by hearing you out, I just feel like you're doing a lot of self-blaming when you fail a test, and you're really beating yourself up for failing a test. And that's not a good feeling to have. How do you think you can change this?
Um, I'll just try to have more helpful thoughts so I don't really blame myself and just try and look at things more positively in a
Hmm.
way because I always just put myself down when I'm not doing too well.
Yeah, and I think I totally agree with you. And I also want to point out that there is this term in CBT. It's called magnification and filtering. So basically, you magnified on that poor grade you got, and then you filtered out all the good grades you got prior to this.
Okay, I'll keep these two terms in mind.
Yeah, it's also that's pretty much it. But there's also one last thing I want to point out is that um, so there's this another term now. So it's generalizing. So it's when you think of your failure, because you're not taking everything into consideration. You're just looking at this whole situation of you getting a C or D on your last test, and then you just make a general conclusion that you failed and therefore you must be a failure. Is this like, does this make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I didn't really take into account how much work I do. I just keep
Yeah.
one thing to another, and I say if I fail at this, I'm just a failure at school.
Yeah, it's almost like you kind of overlooked that you helped your mom with chores and also by working a part-time job to pay for your expenses, and not to mention you're working like a lot of hours.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And how do you feel about like now, right now, we have kind of touched on all the points. Like how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling much better that I do have a plan in the future to help reduce all this stress that I'm experiencing,
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you feel this way. Now we've come to the end of the session, and I want to try a breathing exercise that will help us to calm our anxious feelings. Are you up for that?
Sure.
Okay, so the first thing we do is that we sit in a comfortable position, and I think you seem pretty comfortable to me. And the first thing we have to do is like close our eyes.
Hmm.
And now we will try some slow breathing. So I want you to, keep your eyes closed and sit up straight. And then we'll try some slow breathing. And this is because stress affects our emotions as well as our bodies, which is why this technique is really helpful. And by slowing our breath and by controlling it, we can feel so much better.
Cool.
And we can start to count to 5 as we breathe in through our mouth. So I'm going to do the first example. Let's start. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you just hold that breath for 1 second. And then you slowly exhale and breathe out for 7 seconds through your mouth. And as you do that, we count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How are you feeling right now?
I just feel so much better. And I think taking that time just helps alleviate my anxious thoughts and just stress.
Yeah. And do you think we should try one more time with this activity, or do you think you got this?
I think I'll use this at home or wherever I am in the
Okay,
future.
great. Great. Um, so before we end, I just have to ask you this question because it's part of my job. Nothing personal, but do you have any thoughts of harming yourself or harming others?
No, that's never crossed my mind. I've never had those suicidal thoughts or wanting to hurt others. I've just been putting a lot of stress on myself.
Great. And that's very, I mean, good for you because you're going through a lot and you're doing so well. I think your mental health is still, you have really strong mental health still. And we have now come to the end of our session, and we will end the session.
Thank you for all your help today.
And thank you for coming here and sharing your thoughts with us. Bye.
Bye.